jeans, boots with a fur. The whole club was looking at her. She hit the floor, the next thing you know, shawty got low, 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 low.
Let's get this one.
Hey guys, Jim here. Welcome in once again. Today we're going to be taking a look at a name that you are probably unfamiliar with. This is going to be the prototype for a knife being offered for the first time ever by Gecko Customz Knife Works and Steven Stewart. Now, I've had a chance to play with this knife now for just a little bit of time, and it's impressed me enough that I definitely wanted to get it out here under my lens and share it with you guys. There's not a tremendous ton of information that I can give you. However, I will give you everything that I've got. Here is Steven's business card, Gecko Customz with a Z, Knife Works, website, phone number, email address, all that kind of good stuff. You can pause that and jot it down. And I guess this is going to be the certificate of authenticity that he is going to be offering with this model. And he was kind enough to throw in a couple of stickers. We all love stickers. And a patch. Okay, so I'm going to put these back in here for right now. And those will make their way to a toolbox in my shop. Okay, let's not kick the camera all over the place. And let's start talking about the knife. Now, as I mentioned before, Steven Stewart is his name. He is the owner and operator of Gecko Customz. And this is their first mid-tech knife offering. Now, what they typically do, let's say you've got a knife that you really love. Let's say it's something like a Brian Brown Jaeger M, the production Jaeger M. And you're like, you know what? I would really like to have a set of these really cool custom scales put on the knife and maybe change the finish and, you know, modifying the knife to some degree. That's what Gecko does, is they are knife modifiers. And you can send them a knife and they'll do really, really cool stuff to it. And since they have done such great work and gotten so much feedback from the community, they have built quite a following. And as such, they've been able to collaborate with a few brands. And as I mentioned before, with the J-Cape, they have been able to get a custom edition made exclusively for them that they're able to market. So that was the one that I was able to review. Actually, I don't know that I mentioned it. This is my second take on doing this opening, and I think it was in the deleted take that I mentioned it. Something Obscene Company J-Cape. There was one version that I reviewed a few months ago, and it was the Gecko version from Gecko Customz. And that was my first experience dealing with them in any way, shape, or form. And I've had a chance to kind of talk back and forth with Steven a bit, and he seems to be a really, really nice guy and really has his shit together. All the customer feedback that I've seen on the internet has been very, very positive. So when he said, hey, I'm working on my first mid-tech design, can I interest you in taking a look at it? I'm like, yeah, sure. I'm sure that'll be great. And he sent me a picture, and I'm like, oh man, that's cool. I dig that. I am certainly very interested. And now it's been a couple of months, and it finally made its way to me. I think one or two other YouTubers may have had the chance to play with this before I did. What he told me in the message he just sent me was, I was kind of afraid to send it to you too early on because I can't exactly promise when they're going to be delivered. And I'm going to talk to you about that here in a minute, because the parts and stuff like that have not been cut yet. They're working on that this month in December of 2023. So I'm going to break away from my standard format that I have been doing over the past year of doing the TLDW, then the specs, and then the review at the end. I'm just going to kind of freeball it and give you information as it pops in my head. Now, this is a midtech that has parts made by Schenk Knives out of Idaho Falls. And what they're doing is they're cutting all the components, right? And they're sending each of the components individual. So let's say there's a box full of titanium scales, a box full of blades, a box full of thumb studs, box full of pocket clips, box full of inlays, box full of pivots. Nothing is finished. Nothing has been, fit together, like the blades into the frames and fitting the back spacers and all that kind of good stuff. They're just raw cut parts that are not finished and still have to have all the work done to them. So they're sending all those to Steven, and then they, by the way, are grinding the blades, and we'll talk about the blade grind in a moment. Steven does all the finishing work, does the sharpening, fits the lockup, all that kind of good stuff, tunes the actions. He's going to be responsible for all that. But I don't have an exact time frame for you on these because they're just starting to get the parts cut this month. And here's the deal. They're only going to be making 100 of these. And what Steven is doing is he's requesting to get parts enough to put together 20 pieces at a time so that he can kind of get through the work on them and not get overwhelmed and hold things up for too long and have people going, oh my God, I paid 6 months ago a deposit to get on this pre-order and you're still not done with these things. What the hell's going on? He doesn't want to fall into that trap that is super easy to fall into. So what he's going to do is get 20 knives done at a time. He's going to work small batch and then have them ready to go. So once they get all the parts cut and he gets the parts and he recognizes that everything is done to the degree that he wants them done at, then he's going to announce a pre-order, and that's going to be through his website, probably through his Facebook group as well, Gecko Customz. Again, Customz is with a Z because they're cool like that. And he did tell me the price point they're shooting at. I'm not going to mention it here because, in my opinion, for a mid-tech knife that doesn't carry an enormous name on it like Todd Begg or Bob Terzola or something like that, I think the price is way too high, like way, way, way too high. So I don't want to say what that is, just in case he is able to look at his costs and then reconsider his options and then maybe price it differently. I don't want to ruin anything by putting a price out there. The people watch this video and never follow up and watch any other videos and just kind of tune out and go, yeah, I'm not spending that much because I could buy a full custom knife from a decent maker for that money, and I could buy a mid-tech from a legacy maker with their name on it for the same money. So I don't want to ruin anything for him. My opinion is the price is far, far, far too high for an initial offering from a name that a lot of people aren't going to know yet. That doesn't mean the knife isn't great, and that if somebody else had made this, that they wouldn't have priced it similarly. I'm just saying I know how the market works. I know how people generally tend to feel when they're looking at certain price points, and that's going to be a tough pill to swallow for a lot of people. All right, let's get into the knife. So what they're doing is Schenk is going to be CNC machining these blades in a step pattern. So you're getting these ridges, and they're actually hollow ground. I don't know if there's a good view that I can give you. Maybe it'll show up this way. Let's see. Try to focus, zoom in. My hands are a little too shaky. There we go. So you can see that it is hollow ground, even though it was done on CNC. Typically, that's going to be a flat grind. But they have managed to do it in a way where it comes out as a hollow grind. That's actually pretty interesting. I don't know that I've seen anyone else do that before. And maybe I have and I wasn't paying attention. I don't know. The name of this knife, by the way, which I was holding off on saying for a while because I don't know the origins of the name. It's called the Tokay. Tokay. Now, that may mean something. I don't know. I think the only time I've ever said Tokay is when I'm being sarcastic and somebody's telling me something that I already know. I'm like, Tokay. But I'm sure it has some sort of meaning, and if it's a deep meaning, like I don't know, like a family name or something, I'm sorry if I'm insulting Stephen in any way, but I'm sure that there is a meaning behind the name Tokay. What I do know is that I really like the size and the feel of this knife. It's a really good EDC size. Oh, my goodness. As with a lot of knives that I seem to have reviewed quite by chance recently, this falls into that smaller side of medium for an EDC knife. And I'm not meaning to upload back to back to back to back so many similarly sized knives, but it just happens to be working out that way. Let's give you a nice close-up on how this looks, how everything's put together, the finishes that are done. And by the way, the 100 knives that are going to be offered, I like that. The fact that they're made in the U.S., that's a nice thing to have. It gives people one less thing to bitch about. And I'm going to tell you right now, because we were talking about price a moment ago, when you see a really bitchin' knife coming out and it's made in China, and you're bitching and screaming at these companies or these makers putting their name on a Chinese-made knife that they're putting out for $200, $300, $400, $500. And a lot of times I tell you, well, okay, great. If you wanted this made in the U.S., you're probably going to end up spending about 30% more. You're the exact people that need to be buying this knife, especially if it comes out at the price that Stephen is anticipating, because that's just the way it is. If this were made in China, it would be substantially less expensive than his projected retail. Now, I don't want to belabor the point on his pricing because it may end up coming out at that price. And I really don't want to discourage anybody because this is a really, really well-made knife. But there's always going to be that natural comparison. People are going to go, well, I mentioned a Jaeger earlier. I could get a Jaeger M for $425 or $375 for plain tie. Or I could get this knife or this knife or this knife for way less. Yeah, because those were made in China. And while some people will bitch about things not being made in America and saying, I'd gladly spend the extra money if they were made in the U.S., the majority of the market is going to go, I'm looking at a knife made of titanium with carbon fiber inlays that are really nice camo carbon inlays, and I'm looking at AEBL steel. That is a very hard thing to say when you're trying to talk fast. And there are plenty of knives out there that are comparable, that are half the price. That's where the general market goes. So you really need to keep that in mind. Now, as I was going to say before I got sidetracked, is out of the 100 knives that are going to be made, this is the combination they'll be available in. You're going to get this dark bead blast on the titanium. You're going to get the black wash finish for the pivot, the thumb studs, the pocket clip, and the back spacer. All of which, by the way, everything on here is titanium. You're going to get that black wash finish. And then the blades are going to be two-tone like this, where they're going to have the horizontal finish on the flats, which they may be hand-rubbed satin. I don't know if they're being done by hand, so I resist the urge to say that. So horizontal satin on the flats, and then the darker blasted finish on the primary bevels. They've done a nice mirror polish on the edge as well. So they're only going to come in one flavor, and that is the signature look for Gecko Customz. This is their proprietary camo carbon, by the way. Camo carbon does not make this selection available publicly. It is only available for Gecko, period. That is it. So how do I feel about the knife overall? I really dig the ergonomics. It's nicely contoured and shaped for the hand. It fits very, very well. It's not a straight back design. It's got a very gentle arch to it, which feels, again, very natural in the hand. I would like to have seen the jimping go all the way up, especially if you're choking up into the forward finger choil and the blade. So about 3/4 of an inch beyond the thumb stud, or maybe a little bit more, I would have liked to have seen the jimping. Right now, the only jimping that's on there is so that you can front flip the knife. So you have the thumb stud opening and you have the front flip opening, which I am usually terrible at, but this knife is actually pretty good at it. The action feels wonderfully smooth. The detent is a little bit on the heavy side. So it is a sharp detent. You're going to get a nice fast opening action. Fires like a rocket. Feels good. Overall, the fit and finish is fantastic. I really can't feel where the inlay ends and the frame begins. They did a very, very good job there. Everything is done exceptionally well. You would think that this was a custom knife if somebody handed it to you. Actually, I feel a little bit right here. But since I don't anywhere else, I don't think that that's going to be indicative of the 100 delivered knives. Again, this is a prototype. There can be little things here and there that will change. But as far as I know, the majority of this is going to be the way that it is. Yeah, the little bit of jimping that's there is not effective to actually hold your hand in place when you're using the knife. It's only effective for helping to open the blade. So yeah, I'd love to see some jimping. Nice fine line jimping, the same as back here, all the way up. That would feel really, really nice. Because I think this is the kind of knife that you're going to end up EDCing. Something that you're going to carry very, very often. And as such, you're probably going to be inclined to use it. And if you're going to use it, having the additional grip is certainly going to be a benefit for you. You're going to look at that and go, yeah, I'm really glad that jimping is there. Especially as grabby as the jimping was on the corner of the blade for the front flipping. They do know how to do the jimping very, very well. It almost feels like it's undercut, like it's wire EDM undercut. But either way, however it's done, it's probably just done on the CNC. They did a really, really nice job of making it grabby without making it, sharp and where it's going to cut into things and tear up your skin. I think it did a really, really nice job all the way around on that. So that's my thoughts on the knife. This is your sneak peek of the prototype. I'm really excited for people to start getting these whenever they are finished, because I think a lot of people are going to be very impressed with this freshman offering from Steven and Gecko Customz Knife Works. And I really hope that they do more designs in the future, because if this is the first, I mean, look at the clean design of this overall. The blade shape, the shape of the frame, the contouring of the frame, all of the intelligent choices that were made design-wise in this that were then followed through in the manufacturing. They did a really nice job of making everything and the final assembly and everything. It worked out really, really, really well. If this is Steven's first knife design, I'm very excited to see where he goes in the future with it, because I think he would be very, very successful at it. So that's my thoughts on it overall. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time around.